Hey everybody, Mike Guglielmi from Sons of a Pitch Soccer Podcast. I think we're good. I think we're live. Take 2 of episode 135. Man, what a nightmare that was last night. We don't know if it was the new program we were using. We don't know if it was Nick's internet connection. We don't know if it was my internet connection. But we do know that it didn't work. And so we are back to do it again. Episode 135. Nick, it's lots to talk about, man. We got lots to talk about. Sorry that things screwed up last night to you and the viewers. And hey, what's going on in your life? Nick, are you there? I can't hear you and I can't see you.
So see, it's my internet connection. Give me 5 minutes here.
All right. So, anyways, let's jump right into it here. We've got lots to talk about in this episode. MLS is back. There's lots of rumors and things like that. All right, we got Daniel Young joining us, H. Huss joining us as well. Thanks for jumping on, guys. And Amador Rojas is back. So we appreciate you guys jumping back on. Man, there is a lot of training going on. Guys are setting up, and getting ready to start training in full team trainings and whatnot. So we've got some rumors and whatnot to talk about, as well as some interesting news from the Bundesliga and some of the other leagues around as well. Just a note, EPL is starting up again next week. EPL, well, actually this week. It's going to be starting up tomorrow, but next weekend will be the first weekend of games. So that is what we're going to be doing live next weekend on Saturday morning in at least Central Time. We will be live for Brighton Hove and Albion against Arsenal. So make sure you guys jump on. If you haven't done so already, subscribe and turn on notifications so that you will be getting a notification when we go live Saturday morning at like 8 a.m. Central Standard Time to talk some Premier League. Brighton Hove and Albion against Arsenal. This game is going to be nationally televised through NBC Sports Network. Brighton Hove and Albion, one of my kind of favorite teams in the Premier League, just based off of their story. They've got a really cool story. We'll be talking more about that during our live against Arsenal, one of the top teams in the Premier League. Not the top team, but one of the better teams in the Premier League and in the world. So, lots to talk about in that one. And EPL is back. I mean, we've got La Liga back now, as well as Serie A is coming back. They did the Coppa Italia game, which we just did the live for last week. Had a great turnout, so that was cool. H. Huss says, Nick's green screen kind of off, LOL. Yeah, he's moving from upstairs back to downstairs or wherever the hell he's closer to his internet connection. And sorry, but the Bundesliga is boring. How does the same team manage to win 8 straight titles? Hey, it's the same thing as Serie A. Right? You've got Juventus has picked up 9. I think they're going for their 9th straight Scudetto this year. And they're probably going to get it, unless Lazio or I believe it's Lazio has a chance to catch them. Inter Milan is pretty much out of the running there. But yeah, that's what you get in these top leagues in Europe. And these guys, that's kind of the talk, right? Do we let MLS get there, or do we keep the parity with the salary cap and all that kind of stuff? I think there's a healthy balance. I think we need to keep the salary cap. We need to make sure that, we really need to just make it work with parity, but also to add in the sides of having a little bit of a salary cap increase so that we can compete with Liga MX and other teams like that. So Nick has moved onto his couch away from the blue screen, and he's here. So I'm going to try and integrate him back into the picture. However, I do have him in with the NDI source coming through. So Nick, your audio, well, it was on. Let's see, how about now? We got your audio back. We do not. Your NDI source is completely gone. So, trying to work Nick back into the picture here. Let us know in the comments if there's anything you guys want to talk about as far as MLS, Bundesliga, EPL, any of these types of things. let us know in the live chat, and we'll do our best. So Daniel Young says, hopefully MLS doesn't become a farmers league, and H-Hus soccer is pretty capitalist. If you aren't owned by an extremely rich dude, then you won't have much chance of success. That's true, and I think that's why MLS has the salary cap and whatnot, trying to get that aspect out of there. So let me 1 second here, everybody, to pull Nick back in, and we will go from there. I'm getting you, man. I'm getting you. All right, there you are. Let me pull you back in here.
Fantastic.
All right. You are back on. So, Nick, these new houses, man, it's tricky. Where's your internet? Where's your office?
I tell you.
I thought you were going to have a dedicated office for us. What's going on, man? Now you can't even get your blue screen set up.
Well, apparently the office is right in the middle of the dead zone, whatever the case may be. At least not I can be in the office, so we'll be all right here.
Nice. All right. So I mean, what do we got to talk about with the Bundesliga? I mean, who did well this week? Who is, give us the Bundesliga update.
So, yeah, absolutely. I've been really critical of Josh Sargent over the last few weeks. A team who probably shouldn't be, but is fighting for relegation. He has not been scoring goals. He's not been playing a full 90. He's not scoring goals. But apparently he had a really good game this last weekend. I didn't get to watch him Werder Bremen play, but from what I've been reading up, and MLSsoccer.com does a nice job of covering kind of the Americans abroad, and there's a number of other sites out there, FBref.com, that has a lot of advanced metrics. Like, they said he had a really good game. He drew a penalty. He got himself into some rushes. That's wonderful. I want to see him score goals, Mike. If he's going to be the striker that carries us through World Cup qualifying and leads us in the World Cup, he's got to start scoring goals. He can't be another Bobby Wood who jumps on a Bundesliga team and then gets relegated. I don't want to see that. If Josh Sargent is going to be our starting striker, I want production out of him. I'll walk it back. He's only, I think, 20 years old or so, maybe 22. Give him his youth. But I still am of the thought that we got to get him out of Werder Bremen and on another team where he can be more of the focal point of the attack. So that was kind of my take on Josh Sargent and what went on this weekend. As far as some of the other Americans, Gio Reyna got some token minutes. It's nice to see that he's recovering from his injury. Tyler Adams, another solid game. Weston McKennie still continues to carry Schalke despite the rest of the team just kind of giving up and settling for middle of the table. So I don't think much has changed over the last couple of weeks from an Americans in the Bundesliga perspective. The one headline, Fabian Johnson supposedly coming back to MLS. Have you followed his career? Do you know much about him? What do you think?
The only thing I know about him is what I've seen through the USMNT games that he's played in. I think he's definitely got talent. He's a good player. I just don't know, if it's worth kind of that type of money and putting in what type of spot that'll look like. Is it a DP? Is it a TAM level? I don't know. So for me, I'm a little bit skeptical of it because he's not been a great player. He's never been kind of like a dominate the pitch type of player, even in the Bundesliga, or even for USMNT for that matter. So I don't know. I'm a little bit hesitant about that. I think if you could pick him up on something like a TAM contract to somewhere like Cincinnati, it might be worth it. But that's kind of those are my thoughts on that. Hey, Rocky has joined us. Thanks for bearing with us with these crazy technical difficulties, Rocky. And Daniel Young also, glad to be a Dutch League fan. It's amazing, full of young or football players willing to learn and grow. Even La Liga is becoming a farmers league. That's true. La Liga, it's the same teams every year. Those three, really. I think Atletico Madrid has pulled into the top three, so to say. It used to be just Barca and Real Madrid, but Atletico's there now. As far as the Dutch league, I'm kind of annoyed that they didn't that they canceled their season and didn't give us a chance to really pick up on watching some of those games and doing those as live games, because obviously you've got guys like Serginho Dest before he moves on. There's some good talent in that Dutch league that I would have loved to seen. I really haven't had a chance to watch much of it, but hey, Rocky, thanks for coming back, and Daniel as well. Appreciate you guys jumping back on. Nick, who else in the how'd Tyler Adams do? Did he get any minutes for Leipzig?
So again, Tyler Adams, I think for the Americans in the Bundesliga, more of the same, Mike. Tyler Adams puts in another solid shift. I don't think but again, nothing to really stand out and impress. But if you're playing in a defensive role, that's exactly what you want. You don't want to be the standout. You don't want to have any recognition. You just want to clean of a sheet as you possibly can and contribute to the offense where you can, when you can. So a lot of these guys just had very solid performances. Again, I think it was a pretty good week for Sergeant McKennie, and then everything else was just kind of standard. But one thing to keep in mind: Tyler Adams and the Red Bull, third place. They could catch Dortmund and come in second, but unless you're gonna catch Bayern, which you're not, you solidified your spot, and that's really what they want to make sure they get there. So Tyler Adams came in the 68th minute to see the game out. That's kind of where it's there. The other American, we want to talk about John Brooks in Wolfsburg. Now, Wolfsburg played to a 2-2 draw against Freiburg. Played a full 90. You still don't like to see him giving up 2 goals. We expect him to be the starting center back for the U.S. national team. You don't want to see any goals given up like that, especially against a struggling team like Freiburg. But hey, it's a team game. I didn't get a chance to watch it. I didn't get a chance to see, if he contributed to any of it. As we know with John Brooks, he'll give you like 89 great minutes and then 2 bad minutes, counting stoppage time, and then something could really happen in those 2 minutes.
Yeah, so. I don't know, man. I think with the Bundesliga, unfortunately, I've kind of stopped following it from the moment that we did the live of Bayern Munich beating Borussia Dortmund, and that pretty much locked up the title for Bayern Munich. At that point, I kind of turned it off and just kind of tuned it out. It was good to get sports back, good to get soccer back, but now I'm kind of getting focused on the MLS coming back, as well as some of these other leagues coming back. For me as an Inter Milan fan, it was exciting to do an Inter game through a live stream reaction. Unfortunately, the game didn't go their way, but that was a fun game to do live. And the goalkeeper Ospina, holy cow! I mean, that was what a game from him. That was all him. That was the whole reason why Napoli is now facing Juventus in the Coppa Italia final on Wednesday, tomorrow actually.
Yeah.
It was strictly because of that one player. I mean, Insigne had a great game, but man, Ospina, if he wasn't standing there, it would have been 3-4-5-0 Inter Milan. They were just, Lukaku was just pounding the goal, and I was just waiting for him to get one, and he never did. So, lots of fun with these other leagues, but it's time to get back to MLS. I mean, we've got, yeah.
Here, Mike, real quick. H. Huss asks, how many goals Sargent has this season. So I looked it up real quick. I mean, he's only made 25 or so appearances through, I think, 31 weeks now. 3 goals, 2 assists. 3 goals, 2 assists on 23 shots. So he's getting 1 shot a game. To me, that's service. Yeah. That's a service issue. That the team, whether it's their tactics or their prejudice or the fact that he's only getting a handful of minutes per game, he's not getting the opportunities. He's only 20 years old, but still, if you're going to have this guy in your roster who's supposed to be the next big thing, and a club like Werder Bremen, develop him and sell him, man. Like, anyway, that's enough about Josh Sargent.
Yeah, I really, I don't have much on him. I mean, obviously, it's a plus to have a guy, one of your up-and-coming strikers in the Premier League, but he's not producing. He's just not producing enough. I mean, we got to see more. I know he's stuck on a crappy team, but you want to see more from him. Now, as far as before we get back into MLS and maybe some talk about Khatai and Sapong and kind of the the interesting information that came out of that. I want to talk a little bit about our 1,000 subscriber challenge. So kind of change this up a little bit. So everybody that's on here that's subscribed, I know you already did it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So you guys are not forgotten. Got to change it up. The MLS All-Star Game was the date. We had 3 months of nothingness going on our page. So, I moved it back, and it kind of took the whole trickiness of the tickets and the no airfare and the soccer t-shirts and all that kind of stuff out of there. It's simple. All you got to do is subscribe to our channel, and if we reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the MLS is Back tournament on August 11, 2020, one subscriber will be randomly drawn to win a $250 Visa gift card. So if you haven't done so already, it's as simple as one click. Do it now, and tell your friends about it. Get them to subscribe when you're just hanging out with them, having a drink on the patio. Tell them to subscribe to our channel so that they get entered in for a chance to win $250 for one click. Simple as that. So, moving back to the soccer, Nick, what's going on with... we had an email from one of our avid listeners, John, about the whole Alexander Khatai situation. What's the deal there?
Right. So, if you guys recall, Alexander Khatai was released from the LA Galaxy supposedly because of comments his wife had posted on social media. They were extremely racist comments, to say the least. And it's not shocking that the Galaxy would release him for this. My take is, yeah, there's a little bit of social pressure there, but you know what? They probably said, hey, here's our way to get out of this terrible contract. But really, the wife posted all this stuff that was racist, that was derogatory, and the Galaxy let him go over it. Now, John's email was, "Hey guys, I always listen to your show. I hear the firing of the Galaxy player for something his wife wrote seems to be wrong. This wonderful country is built in a system of free speech. We've got a number of customers that had their restaurants looted. Is that right? I know everyone is rooted on this terrible killing, but at the cost of our freedom." So, John really brings up a couple points here, but I think the focus on the Khatai issue is the whole kind of free speech angle, right? So, if he was fired strictly for his wife's comments, that does seem a little suspect, but you got to remember, the MLS, it's single entity, it's a private league, and on top of it, we don't know what else Khatai was doing within the team, and we don't know his reaction, or like H. Huss suggests, unless he encouraged his wife or didn't try to apologize for anything, but then we hear CJ Sapong's side of it now. CJ Sapong, teammate of Alexander Khatai on the Chicago Fire, Sapong came out on an interview with, I don't know, or at least some other time, and said when Khatai joined the Fire, he wouldn't even look at Sapong for the first 2 months. And Sapong is saying, he never even passed me the ball. Here I am, with a teammate on the field, and we all saw Khatai's play. Why is this dude shooting from such a terrible angle? Why is he not trying to do anything else? Well, now the speculation is he didn't want to pass the ball to CJ Sapong. He didn't want to pass it to a minority teammate, so he would just, take a terrible shot, or, lose the ball to a defender one-on-one. So that's the dynamic we've got going on here, Mike. So, yeah, it might be harsh to release someone based on their wife's comments, but it doesn't seem like that's the only thing at issue here. It seems like there's a lot more issues with Khatai, and, I'm sure all of these player contracts, which are not made public because of an entity, I'm sure they all have some sort of standards and good behavior, type clause in them, and I think this is the out. So that's the long and the short of it from my end. Really, I hope this lets the Chicago Fire move forward. I'd like for them to talk about this, and I hope now we can see a resurgence of CJ Sapong, because he's a fun player to watch.
He had that resurgence last year. He was, he probably had his best season in his career last year when Alexander Khatai was his teammate. So I'm going to jump in with two pieces here. So, and actually, we just had a comment here from Tam P. A lot of Serbian people are pretty racist, LOL. I have no idea on that. I've never met anybody from Serbia, so I have no clue from that perspective. Now, two things I want to touch on. One,
I know enough Greeks where we're not too far away, so
okay. So for one, it's the private entity side of things, right? These contracts are written. Employers write their contracts. At will states, all these different things are put in place that they can do whatever they want. We've had that discussion here about masks in Illinois to come into a store, right? It's completely ridiculous to wear a mask, first of all. Unless you're sick, you're going to be getting, you're just breathing in your own CO2. You're harming yourself more than anything else. But because the governor decided to make a ruling that, through an executive order that you have to wear a mask, you have to wear the mask. So, look, the whole, private entity, if the business says no masks or masks, that's what's at stake, not necessarily the law that's in place. So, LA Galaxy, private entity. They can do what they want, when they want, and get rid of somebody based off of whatever they want. It gives them an opportunity there. Second thing, I do think it's a little bit harsh from what I'm seeing with CJ Sapong. I don't know. I wasn't in the practices. I wasn't in the game. CJ Sapong had a great season last season. Alexander Khatai's game is a ball hog. All right, the guy just is, period. He makes runs that you don't think he should make. He takes shots that you don't think he should take. That is how his game is, and that's how he's become what he is as a player, a TAM level signing, or whatever. So, as far as that goes, I mean, maybe we're pulling a little bit of bait in on that. I don't know if there's any real light to that, but overall, you gotta be careful in today's day and age, and don't be a friggin' racist. All right, there's no sense in being racist. Come on, it's either shitty people or good people, and leave it at that. So that's how I feel about that. But overall, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I mean, Katai's done, and rightly so. I mean, if his wife's gonna sit there and post this crazy shit on the internet, you can't do that when you're a high profile person. You just can't do that. You shouldn't do it. Period. Let alone if you're high profile or not. So overall, those are my thoughts on Alexander Khatai, and let's move on.
Yeah, there you go. But you're right. As far as Sapong's season, just looking at his stats according to MLS, he had 13 goals last year. That's his second highest total since joining the MLS in 2011. His highest goal total was 16 back in 2017 with the Union. So you're right, Mike. He did have a pretty good season. Just think then had he gotten a few more opportunities.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So a
move
couple
on.
comments here. So Tam P kind of chimes in there and says, I don't understand why sports can't bring in fans, but make everyone wear a mask. Look at the protests all over America. Half the people aren't wearing masks, yet the media stays silent on it. Agreed, 100% there, Tam. The media's quiet on it. Personally, I don't think masks work. I won't wear them. But that's, we need to get back to normal life here. There's going to be spikes in this. It's
right.
A common cold, but, moving on. And then Daniel also says, I am not surprised. I have a friend who is a black British man, and he warns me not to go to Eastern or Northern Europe due to how racist the people can be. And that's good to know because, I mean, I've never been to Northern or Eastern Europe. I haven't been to Europe, period. I've only been to Mexico and Canada. That's, apparently there's an issue there, and they're further behind the rest of the world from that sense. So thanks for that little information there. And then Tam says, rule of all rules, treat people the way you want to be treated. Agreed. Let's just start treating people with friggin' respect, regardless if they're white, black, brown, purple. We're all human beings. Come on.
Personally, Mike, I have yet to meet a purple person.
Dude, really?
I don't know
I've
how
met
many
of
come
them.
across. Yeah, I don't.
Many of them.
No
They're
purple
in the
people
cartoons,
around
in
where
my
I'm
kids'
at.
cartoons. That's what it is.
That's it. I think I remember a purple dinosaur appearing once or twice on TV. Maybe that's what we're talking about. But yeah, Rocky sums it up perfectly. Racism is dumb. So now we're talk here. The next big rumor that I've been hearing, of course, major player transfer, major European transfer, potentially coming to what other club? Inter Miami, right? Have all the crazy headlines. Sergio Ramos is rumored to be interested in Inter Miami. Sergio Ramos of Spain national team, of Real Madrid. People are arguing he's the best of his generation, one of the best of all time to play the game. I'm not going that far, and that's probably just because I don't think he's as clean of a player as people want to make him out to be. He's got that dirty player reputation. There's YouTube videos of him using this little arm takedown. Who was it? That guy, Mo Salah. He took down Mo Salah in a game and injured him. Like, there's a lot about how dirty Sergio Ramos is, and I don't know if you want that in the MLS. Like, if the league can sustain a player like that, and if you're trying to build up the popularity of the MLS, you don't want a dirty player in your league. He wants to come in after the 2022 World Cup because he wants to break the La Liga record for games played, and it'll take him another couple seasons to do that. Also, Mike, he wants to come in, like I said, after the 2022 World Cup. So to me, he's just admitting that in the MLS anytime before that, I'll never get a national team call. So I know where I stand on Sergio Ramos. But if you were David Beckham, would you sign him to your team? And if you were Mike Guglielmi, CEO of the next franchise, would you sign Sergio Ramos?
Depends on the contract details. If straight up, if this was probably not even a TAM contract, absolutely. Would I spend TAM on him? Maybe. What really kind of just makes me, kind of question it all is the fact that he's, I want to stay here through the 2022 World Cup so that I can stay on the Spain national team, so that I can hit these different records of appearances and all that kind of stuff. So what you're saying is that MLS is a kind of just the next step,
It's another paycheck.
It's another paycheck for him, and those guys don't work out well. So for me, I'm 100% against it if he's coming in as a DP, which I couldn't see him coming in as anything less than a DP with how that all goes. But he's not that good. I mean, he's good. Let's be serious. He's a good player. If he came to MLS, would he do well? Yes, I think so, but he's dirty. He has that reputation. I think he would be coming in for a paycheck. MLS has moved on from this. MLS 5, 6, 7 years ago, when Andrea Pirlo came over and Lampard came over and Gerrard came over and all these big name guys were coming over for DP contracts. Yeah, that was the time of those types of players. Now, no, we want young, aspiring players from South America, Europe, whatever, that are, 22, 24, 25 years old, prime of their career type players that might not be the biggest name, but they're still trying to prove themselves and still trying to move up, so that, to hell with, to that. If I'm David Beckham, I'm not signing him. That's my take, especially when you're talking about rumors like, James Rodriguez or, some of these other guys that they're talking about for Inter Miami. Look, if you're talking about those guys and you're bringing in Sergio Ramos, forget it. There's no comparison. Now, that kind of makes me think that those rumors are just a bunch of nonsense like we, usually expect from them, in Inter Miami rumors. But, yeah, I wouldn't waste my time with or the ink and the pen, to be honest with you.
Absolutely, and by then he'll be 37 years old. So, like you said, we're not a retirement league anymore. We don't need that here. Trying to build. So anyway, that's a Sergio Ramos rumor. Again, let's stay a little bit international. Coming to MLS here, FC Cincinnati fans know the name Juergen Leucadia very well. They were very excited to have him come on over. And Daniel Young, as a Dutch fan, you might know Juergen Leucadia from PSV. He was on loan this year. Obviously didn't get much to do in Cincinnati. And he wants to stay. Juergen Leucadia has put out tons of social media and press releases and all this stuff saying, hey, I want to play here, I want to play in the MLS. But Cincinnati has until July 5th to decide if they're going to execute his purchase option. Hove Albion, $10 million though. That's the thing. If we're to buy Juergen Leucadia, it's a $10 million purchase clause, and that would make him one of the most expensive players, not currently, not on, but in league history.
Yeah.
If they had to pay 10 just to negotiate with him, just to get his rights, are they going to do it? He wants to be here. The fans want him. If you're FC Cincinnati, Mike, do you pull the trigger? Do you drop $10 million on a guy who turn your franchise around?
No. Look, he has talent. We saw him play one game. It was one, maybe two. I mean, I think he missed the first game because of all the visa issues and whatnot. So you've seen the guy play one game. He scored in that game. Obviously, he has talent. But do you spend that kind of money with a guy where you have a one-game track record of and some scouting? Absolutely not. Now, I know there has been some talk about extending it another 6 months. There has been some talk of bringing that buyout clause from $10 million down to maybe $7, maybe $6 million, which might change things a little bit if you're talking about $6 million rather than $10 million. If you have an extra 6 months to look at him, let's see how he does in this tournament. Let's see how he does in Cincinnati. Again, there's all these different things, and especially as a TFC fan, you look at these different aspects. Like, well, you bring a player over from England or from Spain or Italy, and it doesn't really pan out well in the player's personal life. They might not adjust to the culture. They might not adjust to the league. They might not adjust to whatever it actually is. So. I think that's important too. You got to see how that all goes down too. So I would say if you can buy some more time, and try and get a better read on it, because I don't know. I wouldn't want to spend that kind of money on a guy who could be a flyer. So that's my personal thing. I know that Cincinnati fans, obviously, you're really stretching for you want to see a guy do well. You want to see your team do well. I understand that. But from a financial aspect and that spot aspect, maybe it's not the best decision. But I would work really hard, especially with all this COVID-19 business and everything getting suspended. Work pretty hard to get these things straightened out and figured out from that standpoint.
Absolutely. I'd love to see him here. I'd love to see him in the MLS. I think he could excel and light up the scoreboard and the stats line. I think he could really help FC Cincinnati turn their offense around. As they say, the best offense is a good the best defense is a good offense. And if opposing teams are worried about marking Leucadia and knowing where he's at every time, it could really their goalkeeping, because we saw them give up a record number of goals last season, like one of the most historically, if not the worst performance, in the history of MLS last season. So to have him, I think, would be wonderful. He's definitely proven himself at PSV, proven himself at PSV. Brighton Hove wants to see him develop a little bit more, probably get a little stronger, bulk up a little bit, and just get some meaningful minutes before bringing him back over to the Premier League. But man, if Cincy can buy him, that'd be wonderful. But yeah, $10 million price tag, second year in the league. I should say $10 million price tag. $10 million just to be able to buy him and buy his rights, and then negotiate and see what else do you give him. Like, that would be quite an investment. But as we were saying earlier in the conversation, got to spend money to be good at soccer. I think
something that really comes into play here is the fact that this was a signing from the previous manager, Ron Jans. Speaking about racism, so this was a signing through him, through that front office, and now there's a new coach. You've got Jap Stam coming in, So maybe there's a difference there as far as what management likes. Maybe Job Stam doesn't want a player like Leucadia, right? Maybe maybe he really, really wants him. You don't know what that is like from his perspective. So I think that comes into play a lot. And the fact that they're negotiating with Brighton Hove instead of just sending them back and saying, forget about it. Obviously, then the new coach values him in some way, just basically based off the talent, I'm sure. But overall, that I think is something that comes into play from that standpoint.
Well said, Mike. Well said. The next kind of headline, player news headline, something that I just came across earlier today. Harry Shipp, the Seattle Sounders midfielder, also the former Chicago Fire player, calling it quits. 28 years old, hanging up the cleats, retiring from soccer and going back to school, going to Northwestern here in Chicago to get his MBA. A couple seasons in Chicago in 2014 and 15. A year spent 2016 in Montreal, and then spent the last four years in Seattle, winning a few titles with them. I gotta say that's kind of a surprising move. Like a guy who seems to have locked up a starting job on a very good team out in Seattle, a championship contending team year in and year out, decides to retire, go back to school. Interesting take here, Mike. Now, you've gotten to see Harry Shipp up close and personal as a TFC fan, watching him play against your beloved Toronto in a few of these title games here and a few rivalry matches. What's your impression when you see a guy who's 28, arguably still in the prime of his career, hanging up the cleats?
That just kind of comes down to what is the financial aspect of MLS. That's what I'm thinking. I think his whole career he got screwed basically. When he was with Chicago, he was coming in, he was hot. There was a lot of hype around this guy, and then he got traded to Montreal, which as a TFC fan, don't ever go to Montreal because it's horrible. But he ends up in Montreal, and he's not getting minutes, all this kind of stuff. Then he gets shipped out to Seattle, and you're playing on a team that's won 2 titles in 4 years, and it changes things. This guy, if he would have stayed on the trajectory he was at in the beginning, if that wonderful owner, what's his name? Houtman? Oh, yeah, that guy. And who was the GM? Nelson Rodriguez. And remember that guy we used to talk about like every damn episode, Pauno? If they wouldn't have screwed this guy's career up, or Klopas, who's still with the team, if they wouldn't have screwed this guy's career up, maybe he would be, maybe he'd still be doing well. But I'll leave it at that. Sometimes you just got to make these decisions that you got to make. I don't know what his salary looked like. I don't know, what type of opportunities he had. We're not talking about, the NFL or where, you can tell, okay, the NFL, a guy, said, I'm not playing anymore because I don't want CTE, or I'm not, I'm going to retire because my legs are done at 27 years old because they've been smashed in so many times, or, I'm making $17 million a year, so if you're smart, you're set for life. Like if someone gave me $1 million right now, Nick, 1 million, that's it, $1 million, I would be set for life with a family of 6, 100% set for life, and I'm sure you would too. So, it depends on how that all goes, too. But lots of comments about, French Canadians and all that. I got to say, as a Canadian myself, isn't half Canada basically French, LOL? Yeah, no. No, it's literally just Quebec. And, as far as the rest of Canada goes, we don't like the Quebecese. Sorry to Zach Wilson, I believe it is, or Gabrielle Longpre. She or he or she that joined the podcast a little bit there. The French Canadians, man, in the rest of Canada, it's a different world. So, as Rocky would say.
Nice. Hey, Mike, I think now's a good time. Why don't we take a quick moment to recognize our sponsors of our podcast? I want to take a quick minute to thank Donovan Food Brokerage as well as Nice Premium Iceland Pure Spring Water for supporting our podcast, for supporting our show, for letting us reinvest some of the sponsorship dollars they give us into some of our equipment. Granted, I've got my own issues here on my end with the tech and with setting up my office. But we've been able to get some good software. We've been able to get new mics, blue screens, green screens, all that good stuff. So big thanks to Donovan Food Brokerage, who does a lot of food distribution, delivery, vending services, K through 12. If you're in the Chicagoland area and even beyond, make sure you reach out to them, as well as they put us in touch with Nice Premium Iceland Pure Spring Water, imported directly from Iceland, available at your 7-Elevens. So thank you to both of those companies. Thank you to Mr. John Donovan for all that he's done in supporting our show. And I know he's a big fan of the club, the Chicago Fire. He's been very critical of ownership in the past, but hopefully now with Mansueto in charge of things, he can rest easy and enjoy the games and enjoy the roster moves and everything that Chicago's been doing. So again, thank you to our sponsor. And if anyone listening or viewing knows of anyone or is interested in supporting our YouTube channel, we do have sponsorships available. We'll throw your logo up. We'll read your take, and whatever sponsorship dollars come in, we will reinvest into our show and into your advertisements as well. This isn't anything we're doing to make money. We're just having fun talking soccer, especially here in the chat. Everyone, all the comments here, this is what it's about. Talking to guys like Rocky, Daniel, Amador Rojas, getting his shout outs in, Tam, everyone on the chat. This is why we do it. It's a lot of fun. So recognize that and recognize why we do what we do. So thanks, everyone.
Absolutely. So, yeah, right over here, you want your logo right in the middle here. Then we'll put that up. We'll talk. Send us an email, podcast@sonsofapitchsoccer.com, and we'll discuss those numbers and kind of what it's worth to you and us. So thanks everyone for that. And H Huss, it's a great show, guys. Thank you very much. Appreciate the kind words as well. Rocky, thanks to the sponsors. Thought Nicholas was filming with a potato for the early bits. Also, Mike's SOP shirt is awesome. Thank you. You can get this on Redbubble, sonsofapitch.redbubble.com. This is the original logo, man. This is the paint design logo that Nick came up with on his laptop. I think it was probably a ComEd laptop with paint while he was sitting at his desk at the time. And yeah, so we got the original logo, we got the new logo. We've got it all there, and you can support us with that. So go get some, Rocky. And I want to talk to you a little bit about possibly supporting your work, because I was taking a look through your Instagram account and saw some good old interviews there in the beginning of the season. Maybe we should talk about maybe a little bit of a kind of a partnership going on here with shouting out to each other or whatnot going through. So anyways, back to talking some soccer. What do we what else is left? I mean, I wanted to touch a little bit about the Canadian Championship. So I got a little bit of a notification sent out from the CSA today, the Canadian Soccer Association, that apparently they're going to move the two qualifying clubs, AS Blainville and the other little, I forget what it's called, basically the provincial soccer teams. They're going to move them up to 2021 and go that route, but they are going to host some type of Canadian Championship here in 2020. So it looks like the Toronto, Vancouver, as well as Montreal will have a chance to get through the MLS is Back tournament to get into the Champions League, as well as through the Canadian Championship. So more details will have to come out through that, but looks like there's going to be a Canadian Championship. There's no U.S. Open Cup this year, but we'll see. Rocky and at Talkin' the Woods, that is the Instagram account there for Rocky. So if you're watching H. Huss and Amador Rojas and all these other guys that are on there, guys and gals, I don't know if there's any gals watching, Tam, check out Rocky's website on Instagram as well, at Talk and the Woods. Cool little site there. All things Portland Timbers and MLS. So, Nick, maybe there's a Canadian Championship. I don't know. We will see, but hopefully there is.
I know. How do you think that's affecting the CPL right now, the Canadian Premier League? Like, they just had their first season. It seemed to be well received. Great success. To quote Borat there, great success. You had established teams like Ottawa and Calgary who had showed pretty
anything.
well. Refresh my memory.
No. Ottawa's this is going to be their first season. But yeah, I mean.
Oh, I'm sorry. They were playing in the USL
2 seasons ago as the Ottawa Fury, and then they got kind of taken down, and now they're coming back with ownership from Atletico Madrid over in Spain. So overall the CPL. Right. I mean, you want to talk about bad luck? That's just bad luck, man. I mean, there's not enough explicatives for that. You're starting out a league, you need all the help you can get. You need to get lucky, right? I mean, soccer leagues in North America are usually not extremely successful right off the bat. So you're going to lose a ton of money, and maybe that helps in this situation because they know they're going to lose money, and then they did lose money. But overall, I think it wasn't just set in hey, we're going to make some quick money, and all of a sudden things start going bad, and then they just drop it. Which is what we see from most up-and-coming sports leagues or new sports leagues here in North America. So they've put the money in. They've got their own One Soccer is their own network that they're putting out through the internet. And, support the CPL. This is good for North American soccer. This is good for MLS. This is good for all of it. So overall, I think that obviously it sucks, but they're going to be able to pull through. They've got the financial backing and everything that's built up, and hopefully they'll get through this. And they're talking about doing at least jumping in and doing a season without fans, just to kind of keep the sports going. And that's one of the ways that that. They're not screwing around. They know they're going to lose money. That's fine. Most of these new type of leagues would just say, hold on, wait a minute, stop. We're just going to cancel the whole season. We'll try and come back next year. And then they won't because they don't have enough money ready to go. So overall, CPL, I think it will come back. I think it will be strong. I enjoyed watching it when I watched it. And apparently they're going to be involved in that new Canadian Championship some way, somehow. But overall, CPL, get that One Soccer subscription. There's also some Liga MX games thrown in there, as well as some European games. So check it out for them as well.
Wonderful. And again, I'm culturally obligated as a Greek person to say, defending champs Forge FC, coached by none other than a Greek, Bobby Smirniotis. From one of your hometowns, Mike, Mississauga.
Yeah.
So
Sigma FC.
We've all got connections there.
That's where they produce Kyle Larin. They produce Richie Larea, the great player for TFC right now. So he's definitely a good coach. Knows what he's doing, and glad that Forge took a risk on him, and he's the coach. So. There's your Greek. And then there's some Greek-Canadian as well that's a goalkeeper, I think, for Canada. I forget his name. But,
yeah, I think he's pretty far down on the depth chart. But
you never know. Maybe he'll be the starting goalkeeper for Canada one day. I don't know. Rocky says Medicine Hat, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Yeah, there's some great names in Canada for sure.
Nice. Another big headline that's kind of making news, like even outside the soccer circles here in the United States, Kevin Durant finally officially bought into an MLS team. He joins Philadelphia Union as part of their ownership group, and according to the headline here on MLSsoccer.com, becomes a community partner. Mike, is there a downside to Kevin Durant buying into the MLS?
No. There's no downside at all. What could be a downside? I mean, you've got a guy who's one of the best basketball players at the time. Probably might even, I mean, maybe top 50 in the history of the game. Spending money, investing into the league. I think there's a bonus. I mean, you look at James Harden getting involved with Houston, right? It's a marketing opportunity. MLS loves their marketing opportunities, as we know, with creating the Heineken rivalry week and all that good business. So, look, it's all positive for that side of things. I think the more money you get into these leagues, the more notoriety that comes in, the better. It's not like he's saying, "Oh, I'm going to sign a two-way contract and start playing, center back for Philadelphia Union." If that comes out, then we've got a problem, because he shouldn't be playing. We shouldn't be experimenting like Usain Bolt or any of these other things. We shouldn't be experimenting in MLS, but.
What, really? I thought Ocho Cinco had a career in the MLS. I really thought he was going to make it, Mike.
You're on crack. Now, speaking of a guy who has some MLS history, is Andy Nahar, the Honduras international that just recently signed with LAFC. I do remember that name from DC United, and that's pretty much all I remember about this guy. I mean, what do you got on Andy Nahar, Nick?
So one of DC's homegrown players, played well enough with DC to get a contract with Anderlecht, who they're over in the Belgian league, right? Played well enough at Anderlecht, and people around the league still remembered what he did for DC, that now he's back with LAFC. So obviously, this looks to be a pretty good signing. And when I first heard the news that LAFC signed another defender, I immediately went to their roster, and I'm looking at their defenders. I'm like, do they need another player along their back line? Well, here's the defense. Here's the defenders listed on LAFC's website here. Tristan Blackman, 23. Mohamed El Munir, 28 years old. Diego Palacios, 20. Eddie Segura, 23. So those are your four young guns there. Those are the guys who they're invested in. Then Jordan Harvey, 36, 34, or Dejan, I can't pronounce these things. And then Danilo Silva, 33. So there's no middle ground right now for LAFC, unless you want to count, maybe Segura and El Munir. They're really young, edging backline players. So when I looked at it through that lens, I think Nahar was a great signing, because you've got a guy right smack dab in the middle of his career, experienced in the MLS, experience a higher league in Europe. He's going to fit right in, and LAFC is only going to be better for it. In fact, I even saw someone pick. A lot of people are picking them to win the MLS's back tournament, in part because of the depth that they have on their roster. So that's my take on Nahar coming back.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, LAFC, they've got a strong team, but, until you prove it in the playoffs, again, that's what MLS is. I mean, this is a playoff-type league. Supporter shields are great for your diehards, your diehard soccer fans and that aspect, but as Rocky pulls through here with a comment, LOL, they play like poop together. I don't know if I'd go that far, Rocky. I mean, I know the rivalry between, Portland and the West Coast teams, but yeah, I don't know. They're not winning an MLS Cup, but they're a damn good team. So overall, Andy Nahar, it's good depth for them. And Rocky says, "Oh, thought you said Galaxy." Yeah, the Galaxy, yes, they do play like poop together, and maybe that's because of Zlatan. Maybe that's because they got these guys where their wives are sending out racist tweets. I don't know, But anyways, I want to talk a little bit about the conversation that I had with Daniel Young over. I mean, he sent us a message last week after our episode. And it was a great conversation. I mean, and this is the kind of stuff where, we've done this now for 2.5 years. No, not even 2.5 years, like 2 years and 3 months. and on the podcast side of things, YouTube for like 7-8 months now. And this is the kind of stuff we're looking for. I mean, we love the conversations. We love chatting with you guys. A great message over from Daniel Young. I mean, he started out, and it was really, Daniel is from New York City, an NYCFC fan, which personally as a TFC fan, got some animosity there. But, he says, thank you very much for your amazing content. You have helped get through this difficult time with George Floyd and COVID-19. I have some questions for you. We talked about NYCFC and, them possibly winning trophies down the road. I mean, obviously they've got some great talent. Can they put it all together? And that only time will tell for that one, right? Will they actually get it done in the playoffs? Well, they've got a great opportunity now with this MLS is Back tournament. Now is a great chance to learn how to play in some die-hard games, one-and-done type games. Get it done now, and let's transition that into the playoffs for New York City. As well, talking about, some the growth of the game, right? What type of clubs over in Europe?
Yeah.
I mean, there was just national team talk. I mean, all kinds of stuff. I took about 6 years answering these questions, trying to type everything up on my phone, which just auto-corrects all the damn time. And then Daniel was way smarter than me, and he started sending voice messages. But overall, a great conversation from Daniel. So thanks for sending us over that conversation there and Ajax and whatnot. This is the kind of stuff we love. So Nick, I know you pointed out some news about Ajax. I mean, what are your thoughts with that?
From Ajax? Ajax?
I say Ajax.
You talking about the mythical
Toronto
figure here or the Dutch club?
Hey, you know what? There's an
either
Ajax
one.
right outside Toronto. I got family members at. That's why I say Ajax, not Ajax. Sorry for all you Euro snobs there.
It's funny. I dated a girl, and her dad named their dog Ajax. It was this tiny little fat beagle named after this great mythical ancient Greek warrior, and I just really appreciated the irony of it all. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Ajax, the club from the Netherlands. Daniel Young asks, what's your reaction to Ajax losing the Champions League semis to Tottenham? Given the club's philosophy of youth and leadership development, how can we get back to the Champions League finals? Good question, right? And I think you've got again, I'm bringing in the American perspective here. I think the MLS is almost on par with Ajax from a philosophical standpoint. I mean, they have a great youth development program. They're pulling in players from all over the Netherlands, and they're pulling in players from all over Europe who might get overlooked by some of these giant clubs, right, like Barcelona, Real Madrid, Man United, Bayern. Because if they don't hit at age 8 or 9, if kids are developing age 12, 14, 16, then Ajax will pick them up and take them in and develop and turn them into, at the very least, a tens of millions of euro player. Go ahead and sell them and make their money on it. So from that perspective, I think the MLS is right about there, where the MLS is really starting to develop some good young talent with the new academy system that MLS clubs have kind of played into and helped a lot of the other elite programs around the country. We're really in that sale phase as an MLS, as a league, where our talent can be sold and the money reinvested into facilities, recruiting, signing a few other bigger players, or signing longer contracts to keep your household names or your younger players around longer. So then you just got to hit on those handful of guys. And I think that's what Ajax needs to do. They need to identify 4 or 5 guys and say, this is the group that we're going to keep together, and we're going to make a push to win Champions League. Like, we're having the Eredivisie, and it's great, but we're going to take these 4 or 5 guys, take all the money we've made selling over the last 5 or 6 years, sign them to long-term deals, keep them together, and then start making runs at Champions League titles. And I think that's how they do it. You're never going to constantly spend like a Manchester City or a Manchester United or a Barcelona or PSG in France, you can't sustain that unless you have a bigger ownership group or a more wealthy owner. So pick your window and go for it. That's my take on Ajax.
All right, good take at that. So that pretty much wraps up us tonight. We're just about an hour through here. So again, thank you to all of our viewers as well as our sponsors and listeners. Much appreciated. And we will be back with a live this weekend. I know we'll be doing a live for the Brighton Hove Albion against Arsenal Premier League game on Saturday morning. And then we'll be back as well for another episode Monday night, now that we've kind of got some issues worked out. Nick, I know you moved further away from where I'm at now, but I think I'm going to have to come over to your house, regardless of what your wife says about the whole COVID thing. I think I'm going to have to come over to your house and set up your internet and set up your screens and your lighting and all that kind of stuff, so that, I mean, it's a nice couch you got there, but I'm sick of looking at it.
Fine by me, Mike. Fine by me.
All right, so with that, everybody, thanks for joining us, and we will talk to you guys very, very soon on Saturday. Make sure you find us on that one.